Okay, so Lulu and I were having a conversation about the Lulu was talking about how she was studying or in a class and I don't know, can you just repeat that for the women, how the cycle?
Yeah, so I'm in a sacred celibacy group for three months. And so we're uncovering all the stories about women over history and how women have constantly, been in touch with their light and also stepped forward often, and how it gets squashed. And then further down history, it happens again and women get squashed. So it's kind of this ongoing thing. And what I was saying with Lisa was, I think a lot of women really connect with Kali energy. And because of that good girl nature, you can't be angry, you can't be, too rageful, you're a bitter woman, all of that. But they connect with it because it's so fucking powerful, and they want to have connection with that. They want to know how to harness it. They want to know how to channel it productively, because Kali's main role is to slay the unconscious. And so for humanity to actually evolve or grow, that's the part that we want all humans to slay in themselves. And that's partly what we do in our own work, is try to uncover, unravel, clear up, clean up, and rise. So yeah, I think women are at a point where they've had enough, and they truly want sacred union with men because they love men deeply. They love their children deeply. They love humanity deeply. They love the planet deeply. And they know that they actually have to just harness all that power, do it also with collective women, because we know that that is the only way we can do it. We can't be that sole lone wolf. So yeah, to be in our group, our pack, our tribe, however we want to be, but there's still a few stumbling blocks, and yeah, I guess I'm just thinking in myself, like, understanding the energy of sexuality and sensuality, and then knowing that that's always been a flow coming through and out. Now that with the sacred celibacy, it's as it flows, I bring it back in, I bring it back in, I bring it back in. So, I think we're in a fabulous place in history, like really.
Yeah.
And, for ourselves and our daughters, and, even I know, I have a belief it heals all the lineages back. So, we're standing together. And yeah, I love this kind of exploration, and we only can have it when we are prepared to be, open, raw, vulnerable, messy, passionate, all of those. I was having a thought on the way back to my home today, and I was thinking how many times I've heard the term dirty towards myself from a young age. Like, I was thinking, women dirty? And then you see men and they got all crap all over them. No one says you look dirty, but women.
Mhm.
I was kind of trying to come into my thoughts about purity and dirty, how we can kind of combine them. So I'm going to explore that, a little bit further, because I've had that kind of wounding happen to me for doing nothing but being playful, energetic, curious. Yeah.
I mean, I think my first, my gut reaction is the dirty being associated with the women's menstrual cycle. That brainwashing,
Mm-hmm.
right? So then it's implicit and it's inside, and it's not even yours. It's yours, but it's not yours, right? Um, I can honestly say that mostly by myself, but it was truly only in the company of women where I was able to, what's the word? Flourish
Mm-hmm.
inside my own self love.
Mm-hmm.
and amongst other sovereign women. So not like, needy circles, victim, like just real solid adult women who have their boundaries, respect mine. And then in that space, I was able to, I mean, this is years ago, but that space, whatever space that was, or a culmination of spaces, maybe it wasn't just one, I don't know. But the realization was it wasn't with a man. Even though I love men, I'm heterosexual, like but the true nourishing love was found in the company of women.
Yeah.
Because for the longest time, even though I was mostly secure, I had some insecurities too, but I thought it was from him I was going to receive that, not from myself. And then when you're with other women and they basically, it's like, when you're in the company of like your best girlfriends, only they do the work you do. So then you can goof around, you can do all that stuff. And when you hit a low, they're there to remind you who you are, maybe bring you some chocolate or something, or send you some nice cards, but they know it's an inside job for us. So you also talked about how when this woman, I think Maya was talking about how some women showed the history of where women would start to rise. And then there would be like this overwhelming push down and then rise and the overwhelming push down. And I said, I think it's because they just by the time, a couple decades in, that was just the norm. And in the beginning, I don't know this, like this is just my gut instinct. I think there was such a shock of the different betrayals of women with women and women with women for men for their own power or protection, feeling like there was no other way but to sacrifice her, for herself. Or maybe a woman betraying another woman because she felt she had to protect her child. Like, I don't want to go into blame because I would sacrifice myself before I would sacrifice another human being for my child, but I might throw somebody under the bus to save my own kid. I mean, I would hope not, but like when you're forced with something like that, I don't know. I'd take the bullet, but
I remember in my first pregnancy and birth, like I chose home birth and natural birth, and there was definitely this one point through the contractions and the labor that I heard this voice say, "Are you prepared to die to give birth to this child?" And I said yes. Because that is kind of like we die to ourselves, but also we would give life to something else through us. In this course, we also are looking at, like the background about marriage and how, women were the property of the father and all this. But prior to all of that, way back when, the child belonged to the matriarchal lineage. They knew it came through the woman. Didn't matter whose sperm it came from.
They didn't know who the daddy was.
The child belongs to this woman, and the whole tribe would care and protect. And usually it was the male uncles that became the father figures. And there was never just a one-on-one, husband, wife, child. It was, a group of people. And it talks about some of the rituals we go through, like that awful one with the cake, putting cake in each other's mouth, and, like it's degrading. And, so we've kind of gone through a few of those things, and the wearing white. And they used to wear white with all the bridesmaids as well. So if anyone tried to kidnap the wife or the bride, they didn't know which one was the bride because everyone wore white, because she must be pure on her wedding night. So all these different things that coming to light that most women have no understanding about. And
Zero.
I think it's time for all the, all the curtains to be pulled back and, share it as truth. As, this is what's happened along the pathway.
Well, this is why I'm bringing down the light conception, which I'm like, oh my God, am I going to get killed for this? Because, you weren't brought up Catholic, right?
Mhm.
You were, you weren't?
Yes, I was. Yes.
Okay. So like the whole sacrament and the Eucharist,
Mhm.
the whole ceremony, the sigils, the incense, the bells, it's all the feminine, and yet she is missing. I don't care if there's a picture of Mother Mary. They have eradicated her as much as they can. And so just to touch a little bit on the dark, which there's so much more. When I mentioned speaking about the dark, I wanted to talk about the dark because I literally wanted to not insert a seed in your mind, but actually tell you what not you, like everybody, tell you what the dark does. Take it or leave it, because I want you to get so sick to your stomach that you actually invoke your will and begin running the energetic currents to protect yourself. So like, if you don't know better and you don't realize that there are these other energies, and I don't play in that lane, but you need to know it exists in order to move forward. You can't be ignorant about these things. And the dark now I'm not talking about the dark mother, who's my love, right? I'm talking about the inverted dark, where they don't have the solar light, they don't have the Christ light. So the only way for them to innervate is to take from us. And when they take from us is when we go into reaction and into the lower emotions of shame, anger, guilt, whatever. And I'm going to come back to Kali. Let me write this down for a second.
I like that this is an impromptu,
I know.
fireside chat.
Yeah, it's a fireside chat.
Christmas. Pre the Christ Mass.
Yes, the Christ Mass, yes. So one of the understandings of the way it works is, let's say you get into it with your husband, like before you knew anything, or let's say I would get into my husband before I knew anything. And my immediate reaction, whether I was right or wrong, or I was just being stubborn, could be anger. And then I would make whatever his response mean, whatever I made it mean, when it could have been actually very respectful. It just might have triggered something with my own daddy stuff. And I could legit stay mad and resentful for years.
I can resonate with that too.
Right? And I've alchemized the pattern, but there's still a template. So every now and then I can get triggered and I feel the pattern go into play. And then because I am aware, not all the time, but most of the time, I can be like, oh, I see what's happening, because that fire, that reaction feels great, even though you don't feel great.
No.
So when we go into that space, that it feels so bad, because in that moment we're separated from the light, we're separated from our heart. We have now dropped down. We're operating in these lower inverted Mars areas in our lower body. And it's like, you know who Carolyn Elliott is?
No.
Well, she wrote for a while there was this thing going around about existential kink.
Oh yes, I know that book. Yeah.
So she came into one of my containers to talk about it. And I kept calling it Ek because I'm familiar with Ekangar, the mantra, like I made a song, right? So I was introducing her as like Ek, but it wasn't Ek. I was saying it completely wrong. I think she was calling it EK. Anyways, when we are disconnected from our heart, or when it's truly armored, and I know you probably know all this already, and we can't feel from the heart center, right? That anger or that pattern of reaction, even though it's not healthy, it's a way for us to feel, and that's what the nervous system wants. So it doesn't care what it is. It's up to us to regulate it. And the dark I'm speaking of is the dark that's disconnected from the solar light, which is the heart and the electromagnetic field. And you sent me that thing where I knew it was rolled up. I had forgotten all about that, which is really interesting. Because I had studied with what's his name? Dr. Gordon, whatever, with the heart coherence people.
Heart
Heart math, yeah. Like a decade ago. And that is when the dark forces siphon the energy in that disconnected, dark, reactory place that's not coming from love. That is why not. And again, I really have to preface this. I don't go into the realm. I don't study it. I learned about it just to learn the game, to step out of it, to know how to play the game, right? And I didn't even know what like adrenochrome or whatever. I don't even know what the word is, but that is why when they go into these awful inverted rituals, when they stimulate fear and they take the blood, it's those chemicals that are stimulated from actual fear that they need. So whether it's physical or frequency, the dark will come.
Well, there was that children's movie or animation, Monsters Inc. How the monsters used to grab the energy because fear is a potent energy, and it fuels. And yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah, I've been traveling all the different rabbit holes for quite a while, and yeah, when you live mainstream muggle life, it's pretty kind of okay. You kind of can get by for quite a while until there's a slither of light that comes in, and it's got to crumble, it's got to crack. I hope every human gets the opportunity to, let it all crumble. Really, it's a broken system in many ways, and many systems are broken. And when we come back to the exquisiteness of our own body and the energetics of it, as you were talking, you were saying about the lower energies of the body, but when we harness each of those energy centers and connect them to the right, relationship, that's why sexual energy opens your heart, because they're connected. That's why our womb space is great for our voice space. There's so much connection there that the whole body itself is just a magnificent, I don't even know how to.
It's a wonderland.
Wonderland, absolutely. It's wonderland. It's like everything that creation has done is actually in every cell. It's amazing.
Yeah. And so when you were talking about raising the sexual energy, another way of talking about that is raising the solar feminine, because you're
Mm.
bringing that sexual energy up into the heart, which is both the sun and Venus. They're so, we have superpowers.
Mhm.
We really do. And I was talking to a client this morning because it's like, okay, so the feminine dimension has always existed. This is my word for it, the feminine dimension, right? But now it's like so many of us have done enough alchemization that it's here. And now women are like, I don't even know what time, where am I? What day is it? Like, I was like, it's Friday already? And it's because we're now toggling between.
Mhm.
And with this is so interesting. So I'm not going to say her name, but she had this vision and she said that, and this woman is extremely connected. And she said that in this vision, because she's always in between, that she's to keep her nails painted, because when her nails are painted, she'll know she's in the third dimension. And when they're not, she'll know she's wherever, which was really interesting. To get back to Callie, Callie is ruled by Saturn. And Saturn is very prevalent right now. And Saturn is so much about structures, but she's like I call her Lady Saturn. You know, most people talk about the planets as masculine. And she's like that tough love, old English, old Irish grandmother who's like gonna hold you here. She knows what you're capable of. She loves you, and she's not budging. And so it's like when you can work with Saturn in the body, that's when you exit the matrix. That's when you exit the time. That's when it's just really easy to keep one foot in the muggle world and one foot in all the other worlds. And also speaking to harnessing the anger and the sexual energy, it's like the way I see it is I don't waste it. First of all, because I know something's going to suck it. If I don't protect my energy, something's going to suck it. Okay. So there's that. Two, I pick my battles with how I expend my energy.
Mm.
Right. So if, let's say, I mean, I really don't get pissed off much. Usually it's either a kid or my husband. Okay. And it's not even that often. But it would be really easy to just kind of like fire back sometimes. And I'm like, this is not worth it. So one of the things that I learned, and this is part of the feminine, this is a big part of the feminine, is the minute anyone can feel that they're going south, in other words, they're starting to feel overcome by their emotions, right? You have two choices. You can either quickly flip the switch and stay connected. When you stay connected, then what happens is you have to expand your field. You have to grow bigger.
Mm-hmm.
Because the alternative is you go down, you feel like shit, something's going to siphon your energy, and it's just not worth it. Something else I heard, just to like dig it in a little bit deeper for self-care. I don't want to believe this is true, but I'm just going to say it in case it is. So I was talking with this other teacher, and she was saying, you know, feel your belly. And I definitely didn't like it because my belly's a little squishy, right? So she's like, feel your belly. She's like, if your belly, which is truly the sacral, is truly like the real seat of the energy, like the heart's the energy, but the solar plexus is big time, right? She's like, if you can feel all the squishy in your belly, she's like, those are entities.
Really?
So you bet your ass that day I started doing Pilates. Right or wrong, doesn't matter to me.
But there's this other thing for women. A lot of women just hold their stomach in. I like it trained Like we
Yeah. Me too. I used to. Yeah.
I was in a circle and I watched women as they talked, they pulled their stomach in, and I was like, wow, that's really interesting. I'd never sort of seen that, but it became really clear. I wanted to circle back to what you said. Oh, what did you say? Oh, when you said, and we've got to expand bigger, that gives a new context to me about being the bigger person. Because for women, you know, safety is very important for women. And, you know, women will walk into a space and they will just unconsciously like scan the space, check for the exits, the windows, check how many people are in the room, check how big the men are. It's just built into our way of feeling safe. So we need to feel safe. But when I used to hear that term, be the bigger person, I used to feel small because I'm only 5'5", and I'm like, most people are taller than me. But now when you said that, I could just feel my body go, oh yes, it's about energy. It's not about, you know, the physical structure. So now I'm going to reframe that for myself about being the bigger person. It's about your energy. It's connecting to your emotions, connecting to where, you know, what's happening, and then, you know, expand, illuminate, radiate, you know, create that whole globe around you. So I wanted to kind of bring that in this conversation that's happened very spontaneously.
I mean, I didn't put those two together. So that's great that you did. The first time I learned this was when I was it was right before that I created Migraine Magic.
Mm-hmm.
And I was having a Richter of a migraine. And then I remember I was sitting under the shower because one of the things that I would do is I would cold water, just pounding my head.
So do that too.
Yeah. And then I got mad, right? So I'm like squished up, like near into the front. So I get the water. I had made the water hot. So hot on my feet, right? To distribute the energy, and then cold in my head.
Mm-hmm.
And I was squished up there. And then I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I got so fucking mad. I was like, I'm just bring the pain. I'm going into it. I mean, it had been 35 years. It was time. Like I had never truly entered into it. I'm like, how much worse can it get? I mean, you know, but that's the fear with people with migraine. They think it can get worse. And I mean, it always hurts. But in that space with first the anger, which gave me the zhuzh to go into the space and then fully surrender, I entered into the nugget, the root of the migraine. And then because I was surrendered, like I wanted to see what was happening, my body just did it without me automatically. I just started to the light, and I was like, what's going? What? Like this is something, right? I mean, I wasn't transformed then, but then that was the beginning of me making the stuff for my daughter because I couldn't do it for me. Right. So like as the woman we're in relationship and we usually respond, even though we set the tone, we usually respond. And I couldn't break through to help myself, but I could for my baby.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what, I didn't fucking care. So also I was working with someone and she has a very challenging child. So she came to me and we were talking about things and she wanted an answer kind of without her being responsible for it. And finally I was like, you're the mom. It's a challenging child. You have to grow bigger. You have to grow bigger than the situation. You have to grow your chops to handle this. It's not going to be fun, you know. It's not about that. It's about what really needs to happen in order for you to No, in order for you to steward your child.
Mm-hmm.
So I think like the wedding cake, like all these other things grow bigger. The true meaning has been just buried, like buried, 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 buried.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still alive. And the minute we touch it, it wake like that's it. It's awake. And then what do we do with it?
And true what you're saying about the mother or, you know, the parent, that, you know, you don't come into parenting with the manual in place. You come into, in some ways, the child brings out the parent in some ways. Like you see in the child things that you might have even seen as yourself as a child, and then you realize what you want to do differently. So the child grows the parent in some ways.
Oh
And
yeah.
I fully honor that my children have been my greatest lessons, you know, my greatest teachers, and, you know, challenging and also the biggest heart openers that, you know, is possible. So yeah, that whole image now, you know, like I can't unseen see the physical body with the aura and the energetics of that, you know, the more we kind of push our energy into the excess of, or the kind of the boundary of our, where our auric field is, and then illuminate from physical to that, like unstoppable.
Unstoppable. I have pictures. A friend of mine has she's an aura camera. And so when I first made It Was Migraine Magic, we took pictures of my auric field in
Mm.
increments of a minute with me using the Migraine Magic, which is the mother potion of everything. It doesn't just have to be with migraines, but that, you know, and it's wild because you can see the shifting in my field getting clearer and clearer. But the colors, like my primary auric colors, you can see it getting clearer and clearer and clearer. And I've never ever used those pictures ever but they got to come soon.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Um, all right. So I don't think I'm going to get into, I think I'm going to record the Shabbat ceremony separate, but I do want to close today talking about right now. So today is the Shabbat, and just to give you, because you're here a little bit, the Advent. Do you know what the Advent's for?
Well, I get a connection that it's something to do with the feminine, because it feels very feminine orientated. But you know, I'd like to know more.
Yeah. So we're entering into the high holy days, right? It's all the holidays. We have, again, I said this before. I don't know when Diwali is, but the Festival of Lights. I'm not sure when Ramadan is, but it has to do with that. But now in Catholicism, we have the 4 weeks of Advent, right? In the Greeks, you have the 12, you Greek Christmas, which is into January. Sophia, you can tell me what it is. I think I don't know what it's called, Greek Christmas, or but they celebrate later. Hanukkah starts on the 25th. Hanukkah starts on Christmas. So you have all these festival of lights. And what they're doing is in the official sequence of light conception, it started last Friday. So what the Catholic Church is doing with Advent, but if you go into the deeper Aramaic teachings of the divine feminine and the Magdalene and all those lineages, each week holds certain frequencies. So this first week is all about making seen the unseen light. And it's about trust and faith. And the reason why we light the candles is because if you think about a candle and the light, anytime you light a candle or fire, if you choose to, you're immediately invoking the Shekinah. Okay. And the reason why we light the candles is because a candle can't light itself. It's the same thing with our internal spark. So we have to have the awareness there is this conceived, conceived, like hidden light, right? Conceived, not obvious light. I forget the word, but it's concealed light. And when we go through the ritual on like Shabbat, and I'll record the little ritual after, and we light the light, then that's mirroring in our consciousness, making what is concealed and bringing it into the light.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're actually entering into the second week of Shabbat, and there's, another angle or angel or frequencies to then kind of like meditate on. And all of this, kind of like how, when we were sometimes in my groups, we start earlier and we work with the light so that we're ready for when it's like solstice or equinox, like we're holding it, right? And so with light, that's all light conception as well. But this is like the biggie. This is, the birth of Jesus in the manger. This is when we're bringing the light forward. We're taking in the solar light and the moonlight. We're holding it. 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 We're like zhuzhing it up every week. More candles, more light. All these high holy days in different time zones, and then on the solstice is when, with the alignment, the big seed drops in the dark, right? So you have to receive the big seed, and then in the dark, the holding is fertilizing not only the nest, but also the inception. And in the traditions of initiation, then every single month, which doesn't correspond with the West, whatever, the American calendar, there are different codes, light wisdom that live stream through the constellations. And when you know those rituals, and it's all somatic, it's not logical at all. But then if you feels right and you have some of the wisdom, right, it works. And when the seed, there's another seed that drops. So you have like the mother seed, and then you have like other seeds that drop every single month for men and women. And when you know how to work with that, and you fertilize all of that with the light codes every single month, in essence, we're restoring the whole body of Eve, which is above the constellations. So the constellations and astrology actually, just take it with a grain of salt, keeps us trapped in the matrix. But when we have worked through every single constellation, we have literally resurrected the full body of Eve. And we've restored all the light that comes through the constellations. And then on the next solstice, we're reborn whole. We put it's all the solar, it's all not solar, it's all the feminine soul retrieval pieces. Because when we enter, which is the feminine crucifixion, we lose the memory, not the template. We lose the memory of our light body, our spiritual body. Truly, it's never lost, but it is. And so it's the heroine's journey, right? Not the heroes. It's the heroine's journey to put all those, to find all her little cookies that she stashed for herself, put back together to make herself whole. So holy is whole. There's nothing religious about it, which is too bad, because so many people's energy got siphoned from religion, including, my own, and I'm like, all my kids back, they're all Catholic, but not, you know what I mean? So it's
Well, even the word holy, they dropped the W,
yeah,
which stands for woman.
yeah,
So, holy should be spelled WHOLY. I'm glad you said that about the astrology, because that's one of the teachings that I think has been distorted a bit. The reason we've got all those zodiacs is because we need to take or invoke from each of those within us. Even if we were born on this one sun sign, it's all of them we're trying to balance within us. When we get locked into just looking at our sun, our moon, our ascending, whatever, we've already lost the meaning. We need to kind of be viewing all of them, Yeah.
And truly, it's not until Aries in April that we actually start working with the physical body. So in December, January, February, March, right after the spring equinox, that's when the energetics start with the head and then come through the body, and then, I mean, there's a lot to it, but once you learn it, then it's just running.
Mm-hmm.
But in the beginning, it can seem like a lot. And the other thing is, it doesn't have to be painful. I mean, sure, there can be moments, but I think it's fun. Like, there's nothing I'd rather do.
Me too.
I mean, like if someone asks me, do I have a choice between, I don't know, going to a cacao ceremony or something, and like going to a nightclub or a restaurant, I'm going to pick the cacao ceremony every single time.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's fun, but I do like a little thrill. It's thrilling. It's a thrilling adventure, don't you think?
It is, absolutely. Yeah.
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 All right. I'm going to close this, Lulu. It was great having a chat with you. And I am going to record the little Shabbat ceremony so that everybody has it on their own. But
yeah,
I got people looking for me right now.
Good luck, Lisa.
All right. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.